This answer hour, we're going to have a little bit of a demo. We're going to have some question and answer time as always. And this is again for the insurers, self-insurers, third-party administrators, and trading partners. So welcome. My name is Melissa Parrish. I am one of the work comp program supervisors here at the State of Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. I know many of you have been on these before, so welcome back. It's good to see you virtually again. And for those who might be new or signing on for the first time, welcome. A couple of housekeeping items. We will be recording this session along with all of our other answer hours and trainings. We are recording them and putting them up on the website so that you can go ahead and go back and review what we've talked about, or obviously spread the word to others who might find it helpful. Or for those who weren't able to come on and join us today or other training sessions, they can go back and review as needed. Also, we have our chat box functionality. I've already put one link in the chat, so I'm hoping everyone can find their chat box on WebEx. Go ahead and open that up. The link I put there is for the Work Comp campus main page on the DLI website. So we're going to start there in just a moment here. And I'm going to have a couple other links that I put in the chat as well. Angie might be putting some in the chat as well, depending on what all we're talking about and going through. So feel free to follow those links, bookmark them, save them for future use. Hopefully they will be helpful to you. And then of course, also use that chat box to ask questions. While I am going to demonstrate some things and lead some discussion here, really our hope with the answer hours has been to have questions and answers, and this group has not disappointed. You guys certainly have good questions that lead to good discussion. So we're grateful for that and just hope that continues today. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. We will call them out and answer them as we go. And then also, if you do need to unmute yourself to ask a question, if that needs to happen, that's fine as well. We can certainly roll with that as we go as well. So let's see here. The first thing I'm going to do is follow my link to the Work Comp campus page here. So that was the main DLI website. And now here we are in Work Comp campus. So if you found that link in the chat, hopefully you can follow right along. We've talked on the previous answer hours about the Work Comp campus training, and we'll look at that briefly in just a moment as well. But I wanted to start on this main Work Comp campus page today. There's some good information here for everyone. You can scroll on down and see different links that you can go to. But the first thing I wanted to bring your attention to, because we've had several questions on it, and I think it's really applicable to this group, is the form filing information. This was sent out in late August. I'm going to go ahead and click on it to open it up. And this was a Gov delivery that was sent out at the end of August to remind people of the filing timelines as we get ready to roll into the new live system of Work Comp Campus on November 2nd. So there's a few different things listed here with dates as far as filing deadlines. The Work Comp incoming mail email address was set to be turned off on Friday. There, we might have wiggled a little more room for you guys in there. I'm thinking a few people might have gotten some stuff in, perhaps even on Monday this week, but we're getting that shut down. So that won't be an option to file anymore. The fax lines that you file with our CRT department here on Tuesday, October 27th at 4:30. That's when that will be shut off. So if you need to fax something in, you would do that before that time. And then that also talks about a few other online submissions and the dates for that being Thursday, October 29th at end of business. For those of you who are trading partners, and if you're in charge of your trading partner profile, your trading partner agreement, you've been communicating with us as we get ready to set you up in campus. So you probably already all well know that the online submission is no longer available. The link is not there on the website. And instead we've been communicating, and you can continue to communicate with our team, which is dli.edi@state.mn.us. We will still be receiving mail. The post office keeps going, even despite all the snow that we got here yesterday, which was delightful. Up through Friday, October 30th. So we will be getting your mail. And then here it gives I'm not going to go through all of this. I know you don't need me to read the document to you, but here's some basic information for you that we wanted to point out this document. So again, that link I put in chat takes you right to the Work Comp campus page. And then it's that top link here if that's something that you need to distribute further with your teams. So let's see here. The next thing I'm going to do is talk about some training. And even though it's right there on the screen for you, I am just going to put that in the chat. So in case you want to just follow that link and go directly to the page here, the Work Comp Campus Training. And I wanted to mention there's still registration open for the dates that have not yet passed. And so one big one, of course, is this group management training. There is a recording from last week's training, but then this afternoon at 1 o'clock, there's group management training. We've got a lot of interest in that, so that's great. And there's a few other sessions here that you can look for, to register for. And then down at the bottom here, you can see the presentation and video recordings of the presentations that have already happened. And on the side here, I'm going to go over to Work Comp Campus for insurers and self-insurers. You can also go to Work Comp Campus for trading partners. And you can see the information about these answer hours. And Angie, sorry to put you on the spot right now, but can I ask you about the next week, if that's a go, just to double check?
Yeah, so we will be holding another round of these answer hours, and you all may have received an invitation. That information is up on the website. Just so you all are aware, that will specifically be to cover kind of some last minute logistics and information. That will not be an answer hour where Melissa is giving any kind of demonstrations. That will be quite limited, just to make sure that you all are getting your logistical questions answered in advance of go live.
Perfect. Thanks, Angie. So yeah, so that's the registration isn't up here quite yet, but we can look for that for next week. And then also the rescheduled from November 11th, because that is a federal holiday and therefore our offices are closed, would be rescheduled to November 12th. So that information will be coming up soon on the website here. So I did just put in the chat two more. Oh, and I see we have a question I can get to in a moment here. Two more of the links that bring you directly. So right now I'm on the Work Comp Campus for insurers and self-insurers, but the other link is the one for the trading partners, and they both have this answer hour information. Let's see, and as long as I have the chat open, there was a question, can we mail the NOPLD, NOID, et cetera, through 1030 since fax is done as of 1027? Yes, you can absolutely still mail those in. We will be checking our mail all the way up through end of day on that Friday, the 30th. All right, and then I'm also going to quick put in one more, and then I think I'll be done in the chat for a little bit here. But this is a link directly to our EDI implementation guide. And so I was going to, oh, you know what, real quick before, as you guys pull up that link, we'll get back to the agenda here just so we can talk through that real quick. So today's plan, we're going to have some discussion on some EDI information. We have received a lot of feedback and a lot of questions, even in some of the other trainings we have done. This was probably the most frequently asked question, was regarding some EDI basics. So we'll spend some time on that, and we welcome questions, and we can go further into the discussion as the questions dictate or not. But we're going to talk a little bit about our implementation guide that I just linked, that direct connects vendors and e-form filing. We will also talk about some of the specific EDI filings and web form filings. For some of you who know EDI well, this will all be very familiar information. We won't spend hopefully too long on it, but we definitely want to get some basic information out there to answer questions. And then also as questions come up, we will go ahead and dive into that more. Then I do want to show a short demo of filing the disability status report, the DSR. And then as always, we'll have time for questions and answers throughout the presentation, but again, at the end as we go.
And Melissa,
yes,
we did get another question just regarding forms, so I'll go ahead and read that off to you. So it just says, going back to mailing forms, if we have a form that needs to be mailed from 10/28 to 10/30, will it be accepted since it would not likely be received until early November?
Good question. I'm going to get back on that documentation here because I thought,
if I remember correctly, Melissa, while you're kind of searching through that, I think that it's quite limited what you should be sending up till that point. I think it may just be NOPLDs, NOBPs, and NOIDs. A general rule of thumb, even if you all are not completing the form due to the schedules that are outlined on here, please keep in mind that you are still statutorily required to be making your payments in a timely manner. I know that's a question that we've received quite frequently is, can we delay the payments as well? This memo that Melissa is showing you all is very specific to the filings themselves and would not apply to any payments. We would still expect those payments to be made in the statutorily required time frame.
Yes, thank you, Angie.
And we can certainly look into this question offline if needed.
Yeah, you see, and I was looking for, because I thought we had some language in here about, especially like those NOID 3 situations, which, as we all know, are very time sensitive. And if something happens on that 30th, for example, and I don't see the language in here, which is what is puzzling me just a little bit. But I will follow up on that and get back to you guys. But when it comes to the payments, Angie's absolutely correct. Obviously, you can still and would be still doing your payments in a timely manner. And then if those filings kind of trickle in a little bit later, that's a different situation. But I'm going to follow up for the NOID 3s at least. So I'm going to go back now onto our EDI page on the DLI website. And what I linked in the chat was the Edi Implementation Guide, which I'm going to open. And it's, a decent sized document at 99 pages. This isn't something that you have to necessarily read all right now and understand fully, especially those of you who aren't as involved in EDI. But I wanted to point out a few key pages here and kind of give some information that we have received a lot of questions on. So in EDI here on page 3, I'm showing the different options there are for filing of electronic data interchange. And so we've got different vendors that are listed here. You can see ARI, EDI Group, EBIX, Health Tech, Fair Risk, Risk Connect, and Mitchell are all the vendors that are approved and are being utilized by various trading partners. There's also the direct connect option. And so if you're a trading partner and you choose to be a direct connect, you're going to connect directly to our server, and it's going to be a secure connection. And then your system is going to be talking to ours to give us that data that we need for EDI. If you're using a vendor, it's similar, except that you're utilizing a vendor that does that and does the programming and sends in the information that way. The other option is the web portal. And we do find, like even in the past, right now we receive EDI FROIs, of course, and we don't have a huge number of people that use what we call the eFROI, but the web portal. But it is a really valuable option for, especially some companies who need it for an option for various reasons. Maybe they're a smaller company or don't have a whole lot of claims, and it just makes sense for them to use the data entry version here. So that is always an option that a trading partner can choose to make, to submit via the web portal. Keep in mind that you can only do one at a time. You can't submit as a trading partner. You wouldn't be submitting through a vendor and also through a direct connect and also signing on to the web portal at the same time to submit various forms. Your trading partner is going to make the decision of how they want to submit and has already been making that decision and testing with us, and then getting ready to submit their EDI filings in that manner. It can change. Moving forward, some people switch vendors or switch to a direct connect or back to a vendor. So things do change over time, but those are the options here. On page 5, I'm going to scroll down and just mention here a little bit further, the acknowledgement codes. So right now in our EDI world where we receive FROIs, we have 3 different options as far as acknowledging your submissions. We can give you a TA, which is a transaction accepted, a TR where it's rejected, or a TE where there's errors but it was accepted. The TE has gone away, and we've been talking about this. It's been in our guide now for a number of months, that we're moving to a TA-TR model. So things will either be accepted, or if there are errors, they will reject. And there's an important note here that rejected transactions are not considered filed. So we want to make sure everyone's very clear on that. On page 6 here, there's the start of information on web forms. So in our last couple answer hours, we have gone through these 4 web forms: discontinuance, dependency, benefit addendum, and the PPD follow-up web form. There are quick reference guides available on the pages that I linked there in the along with the answer hour demonstrations and the video or the recordings. There are the 4 links for those 4 web forms. So hopefully if you don't have that yet, you can find those and that would be helpful. And that on top of the EDI filings is what we will be receiving. So down here on page number 7, we started, and we've talked about this, I know, a couple times and in training as well, the MTCs, and it lists here the different forms that are returned by Minnesota. So if you get a bounce back form, for example, that first report of injury, the original, the 00, yes, a FROI is going to bounce back. And then that would be something that would be served by you all onto the employee. Just like in today, the employee also gets a copy from the employer. I'm going to move, hopefully not making anyone too dizzy with my scrolling. There's obviously
Melissa,
more. Oh, yeah.
As you're scrolling, there was just a question about that notice, again, with the forms. I will go ahead, for anybody who wants a copy of that notice, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put the link right in the chat right now.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. All right, so here at the bottom of page 9 is where you can start to see the different maintenance type code types, MTCs. In yellow here, you see the FROI MTCs that we accept. And you'll note there's a couple with some asterisks here. And when I get further down, you'll be able to see some more information on a few of these MTCs. But it does give you the quick term of what the MTC stands for. I'm sure not all of you, myself included, are always super quick at remembering what all the different acronyms are. But here it lists out the FROI MTCs and then also the subsequent report of injury MTCs here, the different FROIs that we accept. And I'm also going to point out that there is a data dictionary so that you can see definitions for the different MTCs, for the different data elements. If you are a trading partner and if you are a member of the IABC, please do talk to your EDI team and see if that data dictionary is something that you as a member have access to and can get. It is not something that we own at DLI. We are also members of the IABC. It's not something that I can just distribute, but you can talk with your trading partner and ask them if they have access to the IABC implementation guide and data dictionary, and that could be a really useful tool as you guys look at definitions and learn more of the MTC types and the data elements. So,
Melissa, I do have a question here in the chat for you regarding initial payments. If we pay the TTD benefit timely, but the FROI and NOPLD equivalent are rejected due to EDI or state requirements for whatever reason, will we get a penalty?
Well, there's a couple of different things at play there. So the good news is that you paid the TTD timely. And so the penalties for first action involve either denying a claim late or paying late. So if you didn't pay it late, you wouldn't get the late pay penalty because you paid on time. However, I believe part of the question was if both the FROI and the NOPLD equivalent are rejected, and so they're not filed timely, then there is a penalty for a late filing of a FROI that can still be in play, because even though you paid timely, the FROI wasn't reported timely. And part of that, of course, when we receive a FROI, there's information about rights and responsibilities and such that get sent out to the employee. So there's in law that needs to be done in a timely manner so we can get that information out. So there could still be penalty exposure there for the FROI, but definitely always do your payment still timely, because then even if that particular MTC is rejected, we would be able to see through your documentation that you did make the payment timely. So that helps with any of the payment penalties.
And along those lines, we do have one other question, so I'll read that for you. So once payment or denial information is entered via EDI or campus, is there any form of transmission to the employer and employee, or are insurance carriers responsible for formulating some other type of paper transmission to the employer and employee communicating acceptance, denial, discontinuances, etc.?
Yeah, so when, depending on the MTC that is sent, and let me, again, sorry for the scrolling, but here, starting on page number 7, there is a list of the different MTCs and then whether or not a document is created and then sent back. So that would be part of the acknowledgement when it's sent back. So like, for example, here's the 04. The 04 is the denial. So when a denial 04 is accepted and submitted successfully to us, then a form is returned. And so that would be what you would use to serve the employee, showing the denial information. If some sort of copy is required to the employee, like an acquisition here, that's something, there might be situations like this where you could have your own, and you probably already do this practice, have your own letterhead or your own communication that you send out to the employee to say, here's what's happening on the claim. We just acquired your claim. Or I think if I go down a little bit further, I often use the example of the reinstatement of benefits here. The RB comes in, there's not a form returned by Minnesota, but you do need to copy the employee to let them know. And oftentimes you're sending them a check because benefits are reinstated. So with that check, you might already be in the practice of sending information to say, hello, employee, we're reinstating your benefits for this reason. Here's the check. It covers this period of time. So yes, there are situations where you'd be kind of creating your own correspondence to let the employee know what has been filed.
Thanks, Melissa. One more question. Regarding the deadline for EDI and supplemental web forms, will you use the date EDI was submitted, the date supplemental documentation was submitted, or both, specifically for the NOID Box 3 pay-through date?
Great question. So on that discontinuance web form, which is the NOID 3 situations, we will be looking at the date that we receive it and that you serve on the employee, which is part of what you include in that discontinuance web form. There's that spot, and if we have time later, we can look again. Otherwise, it's in that that quick reference guide, but there is the data field where you put in the date you're serving the employee. So that is what we were looking for, is the date we receive it and the date the employee is served that information. If the suspension that goes with it, because of course that web form is done in addition to the EDI MTC, if the suspension comes in a few days later, we're going to be focusing on that discontinuance web form and the dates there. Of course, we'd still like, the suspension hopefully can come in right away and not be too delayed, but it is the discontinuance information that we'll be looking at.
All right, a couple more questions, or one more question. Can we continue to send the notice of benefit reinstatement in paper as notice to the employee? So I'm assuming, can you just use the paper equivalent of that to notify the employee after you've submitted it via EDI?
Gotcha. If that is the practice happening now, I believe so. Here, I'm not legal. I don't want to answer. I wonder if that's something I would need to toss to legal to ask if there's any issues with that. Angie, I don't know if that's something that you guys have discussed at all on a program.
Yep. So that is actually something that we have discussed. So I don't believe that there are any issues associated with you all using that as your means of communication for the process to the employee. But I would certainly keep in mind that we will not be updating those forms as a state agency any further. So I would just be incredibly diligent in making sure that you are including correct information, specifically regarding what's on the back page of those documents, what's on the front page, the statutes that are cited. Since those are no longer going to be updated regularly or at all, it would definitely be in your company's best interest that if you are using those, that you are being very diligent to make sure that the information you are providing is still legally accurate.
Perfect. Thank you.
Another question, Melissa.
Okay.
Would there ever be consideration as to what O2 filings we need to mail to the employee? For example, if we are changing the administrator fee or something like that, do we truly need to send a letter to the employee? This could result in a lot of letters going to the employee that may not necessarily be of value to them. I can field that one, Melissa. That's certainly some feedback that we have gotten from the insurer and claim administrator community. So we definitely have that noted. There are some legal implications. So for the time being, you do need to continue to send those or send or serve those as required or outlined. But that is something that we are certainly looking into on the DLI side as to hopefully be able to kind of reduce those changes. And let's see here, one more question, Melissa. In the appendix table, form names for files returned, the EP is not listed, but the implementation guide identifies the EP as an MTC that will cause a form to be returned to DLI. Will that form be returned? The answer is yes, we would return the EP. So I can take that as something to review and fix in that documentation. One more question, Melissa. At this point, the forms are what we use to communicate with the employees, and we do not generate separate correspondence, so that we are really trying to clarify is we are technically then needing to continue with both paper form filings and electronic filings in campus.
You won't be filing the paper forms. You will be submitting the EDI forms through campus, EDI or the eForm EDI. But yes, you will continue to need to serve the employee or copy the employee on the necessary MTCs that are outlined here. So if that practice for you would involve, like Angie talked about earlier, using the current form and keeping that up to date and using that, sounds like that is an option. Or if you wanted to develop a letter that you would use instead. But if you're using, for example, the NOBP, I think is that what was mentioned. But if you want to use one of those form filings, you don't also file that with the state. We're only going to receive the actual EDI MTC.
Yeah, I would add to that. Everything Melissa said is correct. Just make sure that you all are keeping a record of what you're sending to those employees in your own systems. While we don't require those to be uploaded to campus currently, that does not necessarily mean that compliance may not come across a situation where they need a record that you all did serve or send that. So probably something that you all are already doing, but just a good reminder to keep record of anything you send or serve. And then additionally, there was just a follow-up on the EP question. Per the earlier EP question, which form is returned? That is the NOPLD equivalent. So it would be the exact same form that would be returned for an 04 or an IP. It just would not include payment information because obviously you're not making a payment if the employer is continuing salary. One more question, Melissa. Can't we print off the forms from campus and mail them to the employee?
Yes, when the submission creates a form, that is definitely something you can do. You can go and get that document in campus and download it or print it and mail it off, serve it in that way. Yes. Great. So unless there's some other questions right now, and there certainly can be, I'm going to move down a little bit further. So we looked briefly at the different MTCs again here, and then I was going to move down to page 13. And I just wanted to point out there's some special considerations here. So the URs, the update report, I won't dive into it too deeply here, and if there's questions, that's fine as well. But I wanted to point out that this is outlined in our guide on page 13. Your trading partners, if you're using vendors or Direct Connect or that eForm or eShroy web portal, but those vendors and trading partners have been testing with us, so they are working and have been working on the URs. So if it's unfamiliar to you, that's probably fine. Your EDI team has been working hard on this. But this is going to be a big thing at the beginning of campus, simply because we'll be using these URs to get these claims into campus and to know that they are active claims that you guys are working on. So there's more information here that you can look at if you're interested in that. And then I wanted to quickly go down so that kind of the meat of the edits in our implementation guide here. Starting on page 15, we've got the FROI master edit requirements. And again, for EDI folks, this is going to be a very basic review probably. For those of you who aren't as familiar with this and want to save hopefully this link so you can look at our EDI guide and get a little more familiar with it, you'll see that all the data elements are listed here with the DN number. You've got your data element name, and then there's some requirement information. And for example, the maintenance type code. So that list we just looked at with the 00s and the AQs, and for Shroys, there's 04s and there's PDs and all these things. So that's the maintenance type code. And this is showing us that for a FROI, you're going to get a TR, which means rejection, if the edit isn't followed. So for the MTC for a FROI, you have to either file a 00, 02, AQ, AU, UI, or UR. You can also get a rejection if there's invalid sequencing. For example, you cannot file the 02 before you file the 00. The 00 is the original FROI that needs to be filed first. So that's kind of how you read read the edits here. That can be helpful if you get a submission that rejected and you're wondering why, and it lists a DN number, that there's an error. It's always helpful to look back on the validation requirements and understand why. So like another example, the jurisdiction code, pretty simple. It would reject if it's not Minnesota. We don't want other state claims. So it needs to be an MN. And then I was going to go to page, let me see, it's 46. Yep. So jumping all the way down to page 46 here. Same table, looks familiar. It's just the green top because this is the SHROI master edit requirements, and same thing. So if you're looking at like the maintenance type code here for the SHROI, there's a whole lot more listed because there's more SHROI maintenance type codes that we accept, but it will reject if it's not one of those. And it would also reject again for invalid sequencing, such as we may have received the SHROI already, but now you're trying to file a suspension, SX, before you ever started benefits. That would reject because you always have to start benefits first before you stop them, that sort of thing. So this is just a helpful guide if you want to get familiar kind of with the edits used for the different data elements in EDI. So again, this is the implementation guide. It is rather big, but it's important information and hopefully would be helpful for those of you who want to take a closer look at it. So then moving on, I'll flip over to campus unless there's any questions right now. And I'm going to sign on, like you will be doing shortly, to my campus account. I get my acknowledgement here. I'm going to agree to. And you can see here, I just signed in as a trading partner. So here I am MSP trading partner. And we've looked at this dashboard, I think, a few times before, but there's some accepted transactions. I recall talking about this. One of my first answer hours, because I am an eSHROI submitter, I get this nice little 100% mark because we don't accept them if there's errors. So you're always going to have that being a web portal user. And hopefully we'll see some really nice high numbers for others as well. And then we've got our list here of the different claims and JCNs and information down here. But I wanted to show you up here, let's see here, the trading partner details. So here's my ID, my name, my FEAN, and my status. I'm going to go to view profile. And you can see some more information from the trading partner profile. Now, when we have you set up to go on campus, and again, for those of you who are a trading partner or obviously using a trading partner, you might not be the person who is updating the profile. You're going to have your EDI team, and there's going to be someone who's doing this work. But I just wanted to give you a quick heads up on how this works, that you can update the profile and get some information sent to us. We'll have a lot of this information to start with as we get you going in campus, but when things change at your trading partner, your company will then be updating this profile information, getting it submitted to us so we can review and approve it and make sure that we have all the correct up-to-date information for you. So things like your name, of course, here, your FEAN, we've got an address here. I'm not going to make any changes right now. I just want you to have a chance to be a little familiar with what the profile looks like. Here's a nice little box of is licensed in Minnesota. That's important to us. I'm going to click on next, and you can see here is where my profile or my trading partner had chosen to do the e-form. If I wanted to switch and do EDI, I could choose that, and now my vendor's options pop up. I can say that I'm not having a vendor, I'm a direct connect, or again, go through the different vendor options that are approved and usable here for Minnesota. But and then if I was going to direct connect, I give some IP information, etc. But I'm going to go back. I'm not actually going to make a change. I'm going to say that I'm the e-form. And then we have some business contact, technical contact information here. If I go down a little bit further, the prepared contact, so that we always have contacts for your profile so that we can reach out as needed if there's an issue or hopefully answer questions. And you can update those people. We certainly know that sometimes those people change and move on or just start doing different roles. And so we want to make sure we have updated information there. And this is also where the training partner is going to list the different companies that they're associated with. So here is my insurance company or self-insurer. I've got a couple listed here. I've got my MSP and my MSI companies that I've linked. I can add in more either if they're not within campus and give some information, or if the company is already in campus and I can link them, you can do that information right on this page. Lastly, I would be putting in my name there and saying that I understand before I submit the form. So not everyone on this call is going to need to do that, but it's important to know that that is where the information happens. And if there's ever information that needs to be updated on the profile, this is how we would get it. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel and discard my changes because I don't need to make those specific changes right now. Now, if I go back to my dashboard, and I can always click my home button here, and you will be able to do that on your profile as well. There we go. As that loads, and you can kind of see this green bar moving across. Oh, now it just stopped. The top of the screen, that's our indicator that things are thinking and still populating here. I'm going to also show you this button here, submit e-form or web form. The reason why I have the e-form option, of course, is because I'm an e-form trading partner. If you're not a trading partner, you wouldn't have that option to submit the e-form part. But if I click on it, I have a few options here of what I want to do. I can submit a new claim, I can submit to an existing claim, I can acquire existing claim, etc. So here's a few things that we can do. Now, I would like to point out there is specific training to this. So I'm not going to sit here and go through an entire e-form submission at the moment. But if I go back to my external training page here, or excuse me, the Work Comp Campus training page here, one of the options down here was, shoot, I was going to look for this earlier. Somewhere on here, I believe Angie was the e-form. Oh.
Yeah, so if you scroll down a little bit, the e-form basics, yep.
Thank you. It took me a second here, but that's right, back from the August training session. So there is a presentation with the video right here that you can link to if you are an e-form submitter and want to get some more information on that, as well as some of these documents here that are helpful.
Melissa, there is just one question in the chat right now. I can go ahead and field this one because it's related to group management.
Okay.
But just saying, it was someone who's asking, as an employee of a carrier and the person who is responsible for completing the trading partner agreement, do I need to be signed up as a group administrator to have access to campus? So you would not. So everything that Melissa just showed you, you would not need to be a group administrator necessarily. You would need to be part of your trading partner group. So for many of you, you likely will not be part of your trading partner group. That many companies will probably limit that to the folks that are dealing with kind of the more technical aspects of sending those transmissions to us. But we are going to cover that a little bit more in depth in our group management training. So if you are a group administrator, I would highly recommend that you attend that training. I know Melissa kind of put a plug in for that earlier. But as long as you are a part of your trading partner group, you would not need to be an administrator to update your profile in the way that Melissa was just showing you. You just have to be part of that group.
Great, thank you. All right, now I wanted to point out as well, if you go up on the trading partner page here to submit a filing, there's some options up here, and there's other trainings on that training page that talk about disputes or different things that you can certainly keep an eye out for. I know there was a training yesterday on responding to requests for information. Here's a trading partner registration button. If you are coming in for the first time to register as a trading partner, that would be a helpful thing, and there's some VRU information as well. So there's a few different options of what you can do here on the trading partner profile page, but I'm actually going to log out. I want to show a view now as a claim admin. And you'll see that this page looks a little bit different. So here I am, and I'm now Melissa Claim Admin up here. It shows my name. And I am not a trading partner myself, so my view isn't that of the trading partner profile and all the trading partner information. Instead, I've got some open claims here, and I have my calendar and events, upcoming events that I can show, and documents, things like that. And I wanted to show you a couple things on this page. For one, we've talked before about going down here to like your claims that you might be personally associated with, how you can use this filter feature over here, because if you happen to have a whole lot of them, you can go in and you can filter out some information and kind of filter down to just the claims that you really want to see, which is helpful. You can also remove your filters and get back to your full list. However, if you are not necessarily associated with each of the claims, but you have kind of like a global view of the claims you have, I wanted to show you another way that you can find some claims. I'm going to go up to my claim admin, or excuse me, my name, Melissa Claim Admin, and I'm going to go to my groups. Here you can see that I am part of the group MSP Insurer, and I also have some permissions listed. So I happen to be the group administrator. I am the designated contact for information requests, as well as for penalties. I have claim access administrator rights, and I have global claim access, which means I get to see all those claims. You can see that in this particular group, there's a couple different admins. So here I am as the claim admin, but there's also Melissa Insurer. So there's some good information here. Now, if I click on my insurer group, my MSP Insurer, which I'm going to do now, I can get to my insurer page. You can see some tabs down here, contacts, history, etc. I'm going to go way over to the related claims and cases. And here's going to be a list as it pops. Here's my green bar kind of going across the top here to show that it's gathering the information. And now it's gone. Here we are. My list of claims, and I'm going to switch this so that I can see 25 items per page because I've got more than 10 here. And there I can also see my claims here as well. You can also filter like I showed you before. And so you could look for by your claim admin claim number. You can look by your employee name. Any of these column headers up here are things that you can search by, or excuse me, filter by. And you can also just click directly on the claim. So let me see, I will go ahead and click on this one. And here I am on a claim details page. So we have talked when we've gone over the web forms in the past of using the submit filing button. And I'm going to do that as well here. Earlier we looked at the implementation guide with all those MTCs. So remember that those are the EDI filings. Then we have, besides that, we have the web forms here that are listed. There are some special trainings, again, like we talked about, like the dispute. If you look on that training page, there's things you can either register for coming up still or trainings that have already been recorded. But the ones we've talked about, again, the dependency info, we've talked about the discontinuance web form, the missing benefits, that was that benefit addendum. Again, if we being DLI wrote to you and said, hey, you show 10 weeks paid, but we think it really should have been 20. We'd like more information. That's where you'd be filling out this missing benefit addendum we'd ask for, or the PPD follow-up. But we did have a request before to kind of look at this disability status report. So I am going to go ahead and click on that.
Melissa, while you're loading that, I'm just going to go ahead and answer a question that's in the chat just regarding groups. So it's just asking, how does the trading partner group get created? We have sent our 2 claim administrator groups, but nothing about the trading partner. Is a trading partner something we create based on our 2 claim admin groups on 11.2? So if you have already sent information related to your claim administrator groups, your trading partner group is likely already created. But what I can do is I can go ahead and I'm going to add an email address into the chat that if you have any trading partner specific questions, just go ahead and reach out to our EDI team and they can research what we have set up for your organization.
Thanks, Angie. And keep it in mind for those of you who are the trading partner profile people. There are, as we approach go live date, if there's some changes you might need to make, like let's say even if it's like a contact change, like your preparer name is changing, your person who's your technical contact is changing, some of those we aren't going to be able to change on our end until after go live. We'll have you go in and make those updates. So they're definitely communicate with our EDI team, and as needed, we will direct you to make those changes in your profile on or after 11.2. All right, so here I am on the disability status report. You can see that my claim, my JCN was listed up here. That's where I started from. And we've got some basic information from the claim here. Now I'm actually, you know what? I wanted to scroll down a little bit further. Before I start actually filling out the report, I wanted to note the instructions down here to the insurer. Since this is, those of you who are familiar with the DSR form that's on our DLI website, on our forms page, These instructions are also right on that DSR report, but you're in a situation here with a disability status report that you would need to file this if it meets one of the following criteria. So within 14 days, calendar days, of knowledge that the employee's temp total is likely to exceed those 13 cumulative weeks. If that's happening, then you would need to file this DSR. Or within 90 calendar days of the date of injury, if the employee has not returned to work following that work injury. Or the third one being within 14 calendar days after receiving a request for a rehab consultation, and whichever of those is earlier. So those are the situations in which a DSR is going to need to be filed. When you file this DSR, you're either going to be requesting a waiver, or you're going to be referring for a rehab consultation. And there's this information here about requesting a waiver. And you know what, I wonder, I hope that's not too small. I'm gonna try and make my font a little bit bigger. And obviously on your end, you can do that as well. It gives some information here about the waiver and what needs to be attached, such as the medical report showing what the employee can do in a suitable job offer, et cetera. And what happens, here's that written offer of suitable gainful employment signed by the employer. It gives you directions here if you're requesting a waiver. So you want to always make sure that when you are requesting that waiver that you have that report of workability, the job offer, and make sure you hit all this criteria so it can be accepted. There's also instructions to the employee here that when they receive the form, they have some information as well. And so that's important information, the instructions down here. I am going to scroll back up, however, to the top. And again, a lot of this information just populated from my claim, but I'm going to go ahead here. There's some asterisks on some other fields here that do mean the fields are mandatory. And I do want to point out, we had a request last week, or a question, if we could have a list of all the mandatory fields on, I believe it was on web forms. That's not something I have been able to pull together myself yet, but we do have that feedback, and I can see we have those quick reference guides that if you're a really good site, you might be able to make out those asterisks that hopefully would at least be helpful for now. But we don't have that available. I apologize. It's just not something I've had time to do. But I do have that feedback, and I'm hoping to get to that. So here under the employer contact name, I'm going to add in some information. And it already has my insurer details here, my address. Oops. All right, and my claim admin claim number is there. Here we have the job title, average weekly wage, and then I'm going to say the job type. This was a full-time employee. You would be adding in your number of days of disability and letting us know, is the employee currently working? The question of, will the disability likely extend beyond the 13 weeks? I'm going to say yes. And now you get to file click on your reason for filing the disability report. Was a consultation requested? In this case, I'm going to say no. If it was requested, keep in mind that waiver option that's kind of talked about down here. If there was a request by the employee, we're not going to approve the waiver. In those cases, if there's a request that needs to be fulfilled, we wouldn't be in a waiver situation. So keep that in mind. And here I'm going to pick that the employee is being referred for a rehab consultation. When that happens, you get the option to put in the name of QRC. I'm just going to list that there. But do note that if the name of the QRC you providing is a match in campus, they're going to be notified of the submission, which is helpful. So that's a great bit of logic that we can add in there for a QRC. Here's my instructions to the employee, and now I'm going to put in my supporting documents. I clicked on this upload document here, which brought up this screen. And again, you can drag and drop, but I'm just going to quickly go into my folder here, and I'm going to add a PDF and say that it is a report of workability. And I can always change some dates in here, put in some information that might be helpful to me, or a doctor's name. If there's a description that would be helpful to you, you can certainly modify the description here. And I'm going to upload that document. So here it is. Now, of course, in the instance, if I was requesting a waiver, you'd be putting in some more information. You'd have the report of workability. You'd have your suitable gainful job offer, things like that. So you can definitely have more than one document here that you attach. You can also remove it if you happen to put the wrong one there. The electronic signature, your full name of whoever is filling this out here. I'm going to put in my Melissa claim admin name. And I am going to sign here that I am legally signing the electronic form and that it is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge here. And then I did want to point out, we've got some language here that we are working on making a quick change to some of the language here. For this isn't the retraining plan form. So if you happen to catch that, I just wanted to point that out. And I'll put in the phone number for the claim admin and the date served on the employee. Oops.
Melissa, as you're completing that, I've just got a couple questions in the chat that I'll go ahead and address while you're completing that. One specifically related to electronically signing. So if you are electronically signing something in Campus, it does need to match your campus profile name. The question was just whether or not any staff could sign. It does need to be whomever is completing the report. However, I know specifically, I've seen it quite a bit on rehab forms, like if an admin staff is completing it on your behalf, there are some fields where the adjuster information is available to be added. But generally speaking, if it is something where a signature, where it refers to an electronic signature, it is going to be looking for the name that is associated with the campus account that is completing it. So let's say Melissa tried to sign this as me, it would tell her no. It would say, no, you can't do that. It has to match your campus profile. Additionally, we just had one more question about the annual reimbursement and possibly demonstrating that. That is something that we can take offline. We are going to do a specific training on that later on, just because it is quite a small group that typically handles those. So we will definitely have some quick reference videos available for that process rather than demoing that to the full group right now.
Great, thanks, Angie. So I wanted to point out on my DSR here that if I wanted to distribute my document, I could click yes. And then I'd have the options here. I've got my employee. I see that there is a mail method here because this employee just needs to have their information mailed to them. There can be other boxes here that you can decide if you're distributing the document. I'm going to go ahead and click no for right now. Oops. And I'm going to submit my form. Do note you can also save it as a draft, download the PDF if you need to distribute and things like that as well. So hooray, we successfully submitted our DSR. We've got our confirmation and the associated ID for the employee. It's worth pointing out again that that EE number is the WID number, the worker identification number that you're familiar with. In Campus, it's the EE dash and then the digits. And then here I can click on the link to view my new document that I just submitted. I always like to kind of zoom in just a little bit, especially for the demonstration. Oh, perhaps that is too far. Here we go. So you can see the disability status report here. There on our documents here, you have the options here to print, so you can download and get the information that way as well. And if I were to go back out to my dashboard, and I can go into my forms. Here I'm going to see the list of forms. Here's my disability status right now. That is just, I think, being submitted at the moment. So I came over pretty quick, but you would be able to click here on the document again and also on the claim. So that is my DSR. Do we have any other questions on that, Angie?
Yeah, we just got one. So for the distribution method, if you select yes, that's just going to tell DLI how we distributed it, correct? DLI is not mailing or emailing based on what is displayed, correct? Do you want to answer that one, or I can, Melissa?
Yeah, or sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so the distribution method is going to act very specific, very much like how our service process would. If you remember, Melissa demonstrated the service process when she ran through that discontinuance web form in one of our previous answer hours. So if there is an email option, I believe that you are able to just go ahead and send that email directly through campus. But if it is a situation where somebody is being sent via the mail, you would just indicate via mail, you'd print it off and you'd put it in the mail as you do now. So it would just depend on the recipient's specified method of receipt. If it is somebody who needs to be mailed, DLI would not be printing and mailing those on your behalf. You all would still want to do that.
And it's helpful as you're filling it out, of course, that you see the method, because I would guess if I was the claim admin at the time, I probably wouldn't have all of those methods memorized, remembering who gets what via mail versus served in campus and stuff. So it does let us know how you are going to be serving it and sending the information, but also it's good for you guys to know, like, oh, I need to mail this via actual mail. And then yes, you would be doing that.
Mm-hmm. Melissa, there is one follow-up question. Is that only specific to the DSR, or is that going to apply to other forms as well? For example, a NOID?
Yes, so the NOID, the discontinuance web form also had that service information at the bottom of the web form. In that case, part of what you have to do is tell us that you're serving the employee and on what date. And again, that was something where you could pick today's date. If today I'm filling it out and I know that I will get it in the mail today on 10/21, great, I would say that. If I happen to be working late or on the weekend and I can't serve it, you can pick a future date to show I'm actually going to serve the employee on Monday, for example. But that is part of the submission of that discontinuance web form, is to say that you are serving the employee and on what date. Because again, as we talked about, sort of related to what we talked about at the top end of this answer hour, we at DLI, when we are looking for compliance, we are going to be looking at that discontinuance web form, the date it was submitted to us and the date that was served on the employee, for compliance with payment through the date of service as required by statute and law.
Thanks, Melissa. I would also point out, just from a campus specific perspective, it will be very apparent if it is something that is able to be sent via campus, because you would need to complete that step where you're actually selecting the parties, where it is going to be served or sent. If you do not go through that process of actually selecting the people and signing that you're sending it to them or serving it to them, such a really good example would be like your EDI forms that are sent back either with your acknowledgements, or you can get them on the claim details page in the documents tab. Those would be examples of documents that, while they have come through campus, campus does not take any part in distributing them. So that would be the responsibility of you all to distribute them. Unless you are specifically seeing that distribution service list, you should assume that that is something that you all would need to distribute outside of campus.
Yep, and so I came here to a claim, and I'm going down on my documents tab here. And you'll be able to see, for example, here's this NOPLD, and the document is right here. And so since I'm an e-form submitter, and this is, I don't get the acknowledgement back through a vendor, for example, or a direct connect. Instead, I have, and everyone would have the document here that they can access through the documents tab. And again, I could print it out or download it to prepare to send this to the employee. So I'll just back out a little bit here and show you again on the claim page. It was right down here on the documents tab. And there are several examples of things that we've done more than once. So this is a little bit more cluttered. Sorry about that. You can see like the first report of injury here, the NOPLD, etc. So another thing that I wanted to show quickly. Let's see, I'm going to go. So again, there is group management training. We keep talking about it, but there's another one happening this afternoon. There is the recording available. But on your end, even if you're not the group admin, I wanted to show you in my inbox here that I've been using for campus, what it looks like when you get an invitation. So campus, you have been invited to join a group in campus. And so this might be something, as people at your group admin are adding people to your group, you can get this email. And I've done it a couple times, which is why I have a couple here. But here's what it's going to look like, just so it maybe hopefully gets a little bit more familiar with me. It's going to say to your name, of course, and then it's going to list the email address of who has invited you to join the following group. And in this case, the email address probably isn't super helpful, but one would assume a lot of your email addresses, it would say, like, for example, for me, like melissa.parish with my email address. So it's a little bit more clear of who actually invited you. And then the group here is the MSP insurer. So there's a link you can click directly to register with Camping using this email address. And so the email address that I had used here was my campus MSP new. I just wanted a new extension for that. So I'd be able to go and register with that one. And if you have any questions or issues, it does list the campus group administrator, which in this case is Melissa Insurer, and gives the email address, but then also has a little plug here for the help desk, both the email address and the phone number. So this is something that you very well would be seeing. You'd be getting an email to invite you to be part of a group. And so that's going to be part of the work that happens. So you can then log in and see what you need to see in campus.
Thanks, Melissa.
Sure.
So a couple questions that came into the chat as you were showing that. So when the system goes live, will documents previously filed be accessible in the campus system, or will it just show new documents going forward?
That's a great question. Yes, they will be things that have been filed, documents that have been filed, or think back to like NOBPs and NOPLDs, medicals, et cetera. We are migrating that information from our current system into campus. And so if it is a claim that is a claim that we have and was migrated and that you have access to and permission to view, when you go to see it, you would be able to look back and see the previous submissions.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. One other question. How are the files assigned to our organization? Will this be done prior to go live?
Sure. So part of what the training partners are going to do is submit the URs, the update reports, to kind of introduce those files into campus and show that that it's an active claim that can be submitted upon and things. And then part of it is also that group admin, the group management piece, where we've been communicating with the group admin and getting them set and having the training set up so that they can give out permissions and give access to those who need it and link them to the claims in campus. And Angie, since you're the expert on that, I don't know if there's anything further you wanted to add.
Nope, I think that's correct. It'll kind of, that filing of that UR or what we have in our existing system is going to kind of assign it to your group. As far as assigning it to individual adjusters or assigning access to those claims to all of your adjusters, that is something that we are covering in that group management training as to how you can do that. And then Melissa, we did get another question. Can you provide some information about what is required in the UR? And then there was a request for the help desk email. I will go ahead and put that in the chat. Sure.
So let me see if I'm going to go back to my EDI page here and go back down to my guide. So with the UR, let's see, I was on page. So here's some, I guess this is more information. So let me get to that, but information on when the UR is to be filed. So that's some basic information, but I'm sorry, was the question more about the data elements required on the UR?
It looks like yes. And I think in that instance, you would want to look specifically down in our edits or in the EDI edit tables.
Yeah.
And that will give you edit by edit.
Perfect. So yeah, so those edits, when I went into the implementation guide and started showing some of those Freud and Troy edits, you can see it there, but also keep in mind, and again, this, I don't want to overwhelm people who maybe aren't as familiar with EDI and maybe aren't going to be diving into some of the corresponding tables here, but your EDI team is well aware and has been working on these. Let's see if that pops up for me. Click off of it, but there are the element requirement table, the edit matrix, and the event table here are all also full of information about EDI and can be used to see like the edit specific for the UR, for example. And also keep in mind, if you are a e-form submitter, so you're using that web portal, when you're going through, you're going to get the messages of what and the asterisks on what is required and what is not. So on that side of things, you'll have that information as well. I don't know if that just did not, oh, here we go. So here, for example, would be the edit matrix. So this is a lot of information in here about all sorts of different things having to do with EDI that I don't want to dive into too deep right here because it would be a specific group of people that would really be looking at that and using that, but your EDI team certainly knows about the tables here and can use these as well.
This is Bridget. Sorry, I just wanted to talk a little bit because
Sure.
Every file has to have a UR, and so it is a huge piece for us. And I know not everybody is doing that. We don't have an EDI team, so I believe we will be doing them ourselves. And so I looked at those things the last couple of days and was somewhat overwhelmed. I guess my question maybe is a little bit more, what is Dolly and Campus looking for, you know, as far as the information in there? As an example, a claim where someone's been off of work for a year, are they looking for, you know, all that payment history or, you know, those types of things? What is Campus looking for us to enter through our partners, EBEX or whatever that we have to go in and enter information into?
Sure. So the good news is if you're using a vendor, they're going to be a great resource for you to let you know exactly which data they need because they've been testing and they've been successfully, of course, getting the UR submissions and other MTC submissions into Campus. So I don't want to completely punt to them, but I do definitely encourage you because each unique trading partner, especially if you're working with vendors, has already set up the programming and the information and is working hand in hand with those vendors specifically on what and when the information is needed between your system and theirs. And then their system, of course, will be communicating with ours. As for Angie, I don't know, I'm trying to think if there's like a one-stop shop for like URs when it comes to data elements, not that I can think of. Do you happen to know?
Yeah, so I would first off, there are a couple things that I would take into consideration if you're looking at URs. So certainly you would want to look at that list that Melissa referenced earlier in the call. It kind of tells you when you need to file that UR, what we're looking for, and then you would want to look at those data elements. Now, if it's something where you have paid benefits or benefits are ongoing, we certainly would expect that benefit information. I believe that we may have those listed as mandatory conditional data elements. And I apologize, this is getting a little technical for some of you all. But I believe that those are listed as mandatory conditional data elements depending on the existence of the counters related to the benefits. So if your organization has some specific EDI questions, or if you're really struggling, please reach out to us and we can potentially try and answer those questions since that likely is going to be a little bit more individualized. But as far as a one-stop shop, I would certainly suggest using a combination of your element requirement table to let you know what data elements are going to be required, which is going to be like your M, your F, or anything that says MC. That's something that's potentially going to be required depending on other pieces of data. I would also, in conjunction, be looking at the Minnesota Implementation Guide because that is going to be kind of a one-stop shop for what edits would apply. So I apologize. I know EDI is so technical and very complex. So there's not really one good place, but if you have any specific questions about URs related to your own organization, please feel free to send those to us via email and we will either set up a time to talk with you or get you some better, more detailed instructions.
Thank you. Yeah, I do have some meeting or correspondence already out with the EDI team. I was just kind of wondering, what is Campus expecting? Because I wasn't sure if the EDI team would know what it is that you guys are expecting.
Yeah, that's, and we can certainly reach back out. But yeah, it would be what is outlined in the documentation that Melissa was just showing. And a couple more questions here. If a FROI 00 has not been filed with DLI prior to 8/31, but the benefits, but we've been paying benefits, would we just file the FROI 00 or would we file a FROI UR? I think this is talking about like older claims that maybe did not have EDI filings, Melissa.
Oh, I gotcha. So if it's been reported to us, and that could be that a FROI 00 has been reported because it's pretty recent, but it could also be that it's a really old ongoing claim that a paper FROI was sent in, or a claim petition started the claim, or any number of things happened there. But you have been reporting to us, we have the claim at DLI because of the payment docs or other things. Then in that case, we do need the UR because it is a claim that exists in our current system. And if you tried to submit the 00, it should reject as a duplicate saying we already have this claim. So instead we would get that UR, the FROI, and then in that case also the SHROI UR, so both of them, to introduce it into campus and have it ready to receive then the future filings as needed. If it's a claim that we've never heard of and we've never received it, the FROI did not get filed with us, and maybe it just happened that that other filings weren't sent to us, and now all of a sudden, oh shoot, we need to get this over to DLI, and it's a brand new fresh start, then you would file that for a 00 and not file the UR.
Perfect. Thank you, Melissa. One more question. Are you able to access files on campus that may be assigned to another team member when they're out to update that file? I can field that one. That's kind of a group management question. So the answer to that is it depends, which is not a great answer, but I'll kind of explain why that is the answer. So we have a few different ways in place that your organization can allocate access to files. They can either grant it to everyone in the organization as kind of a blanket access, or individuals in the organization as a blanket access, or they can specifically list an adjuster or grant access on a one-by-one or claim-by-claim basis to adjusters or claim administrators. So that is something that your group administrators are likely going to determine, and we will cover that much more in detail again in that group admin training. So if you are a group administrator, please come to that training and we'll kind of outline the options. But again, it is possible for that to happen. It's just going to depend on how your organization wants to set up access for you all.
Thank you.
Another question, Melissa, will we be provided with the WID for our claims? We have only ever used SSN.
Yeah, so when you submit your original FROI, the FROI 00, you receive in the acknowledgement the WID number, the WID, the employee security ID, known by many names, I guess now it's DN206. And so that comes back in part of the acknowledgement for the claims that you're submitting now. If the question is maybe perhaps for an older claim that's been long in existence, I suppose, the WID number is something that we've been using if we've ever written on any of the claims, or we've really been getting away from the SSNs on any subsequent filings. So hopefully the WID is on all the filings that have been made recently, and you can get it that way as well. I don't know beyond that if there was discussion about like big groups of WIDs needing to be handed out or anything like that, Angie, but it would come back on the acknowledgements when you are submitting your claims.
Yeah, that's a really good call out. So if it's a situation where you're needing those WIDs specifically because you just don't have them stored in your system and you maybe need them for UR filings, please contact us if that's the case, and we can try to work with you and figure out the best way to make sure you all have that information or are able to get that information in advance of go live.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm not seeing anything else in the chat at this moment, Melissa.
Okay, great. Let's see here. Oops. So we made it through our discussion on EDI, on the disability status report. We still have time for question and answers, so if you're still typing or thinking of those, that's totally fine. But I did want to move on to the next screen here. I know it's been in the chat, but also always helpful just to have the information. on where questions can go. So we do have two different email addresses there. There's always the DLI.WCMP for the Work Comp Modernization Program at state.mn.us that we continue to field questions there, comments. If there's an issue or concern, we're happy to get those and distribute those as needed so we can get an answer back to you. And then also the help desk, which is now live. There's a couple numbers there that you can call. Just keep in mind that it is option number 3 and also the email address that can be used for the help desk. That help desk is where we're really pushing questions and to go through that help desk, including at and after go live. We have staff already set up and answering those questions on the help desk and hope to continue to keep answering questions for a very long time there. So be sure you have that information handy and can utilize that moving forward. So my last slide was just going to be a thank you slide. So I actually am going to not even move to that one yet and just leave this on the screen in case anyone else is jotting down the information here. But that is what we have for today, for today's answer hour. If there are more questions, we definitely want to hang on the line for a few questions here. And oh, I think I saw a preview of something that popped up.
Yeah, I can read that for you, Melissa. So it says, is the help desk only for campus questions or also for EDI questions?
Well, we do have our EDI team email address that I think we put in the chat. Maybe we can do that again here for the EDI team specifically at DLI, and that is an email address that goes to our entire team. So in case someone's out, it's always helpful. Someone else can field that. So if you have EDI specific questions, we would encourage you to send it to our EDI address. However, that being said, here I'm trying to talk and type at the same time. And US. There we go. I just added that in. If that being said, if you do start at the help desk, they certainly know that if it is an EDI related question, they will send it on to us. That just one more step on the way, and it might be a little bit faster and more efficient just to reach out to our EDI team directly. So we're not gonna get upset if those questions go to the help desk or anything. They'll come to us regardless.
Thanks, Melissa. There's another question. Since we are not filing any NOBR or NOBPs until 11/2, but need to fill out for the employee to serve on them, do we then just add the forms into campus after 11/2?
If you have not filed the form with us, then it would need to be entered via EDI, because starting on 11/2, when those forms are sent, it needs to be the EDI submission and not the paper form. So if it's something that wasn't officially filed with us at the department prior to go live, we would need it to be the EDI filing. When we are transitioning to campus, we will be, as we talked, there was an earlier question about would the old filings and old forms show up in campus. We're going to do that because we'll have this big migration effort to take the data and the forms that we currently have and migrate that into campus. And so if we did not receive the form in advance of that, it wouldn't be part of the data and the official migration. And so because of that, if it's filed after campus go live, we would need it to be the EDI submission so that the data comes in with it.
And something just to point out with that, we do understand that some of you all, like with your systems, it is going to not necessarily going to be possible for you to file that NOBR or that NOBP in EDI. If your UR might just kind of sweep that. If that's the case, that's totally fine. It just may be a situation where our compliance team reaches out to you for additional information via like a request for information. If for some reason we don't see a one-for-one equivalent, say we're reviewing like a settlement and we don't see that you necessarily have made that settlement payment because it for some reason it came in on your UR, we may just reach out to gain some additional information from you. So just so you're aware, it is possible that depending on how your company is set up, that might get swept in on your UR.
Perfect. And to reiterate something Angie had said earlier, but when it comes to that payment information, really we're going to be focusing on, was the payment made timely? And so you might be holding off on not filing an NOBP right now. And if a question ever came up about the payment, or if the employee had questions about it, we would turn around and find out, was the payment made timely, not necessarily when that paper form came in, or of course, EDI form in the future.
Hey, Melissa, just to circle back on the question that had been asked about filing the NOBR or NOBP. If, let's say, on October 29th, I have to NOID an employee, and I NOID them, I send them the paper, NOID forms. However, being that it's so close, I would doubt that we can get that to, DLI before the 30th. So in a situation like that, once we go live, do we just then file it like the EDI and then do the supplemental in that case?
Yep, great question. That the serving on the employee is going to be so important there. So if you find yourself in that situation on the 29th or 30th and you need to file that discontinuance, the NOID 3 situations especially, go ahead and serve it on the employee so that you can then upload into campus the documentation later, even that, like, look, I sent this to the employee on 10/29. I simply didn't get the paper form to you because your fax was turned off on that day. So serve the employee like you would, keep the documentation, and then yes, when we go into campus, like Angie said, the UR, that update report, is going to be sent in, and it kind of sweeps in all the information so far on that claim, and from there you can kind of progress with the next filing. So if you were able to then fill out the suspension, you can, or you could, that suspension information already kind of might be swept in with the UR, but we would want you to be able to show that you did serve it on the employee on that date, on the 29th or 30th.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
All right. I am not seeing any other questions in the chat right now.
Perfect. So we will definitely still hang out here for a couple minutes in case some more questions trickle in. A reminder, though, to look again at that website. Let me pull it up. Let's see if things open here. But if you go to our training page for more registrations for the different trainings, or to view one that's already been recorded, and then the other links way up at the top of the chat. But for the Work Comp Campus for insurers and self-insurers, or for trading partners, you can go to either. But to get the answer hour information, keep an eye on these pages, because we will be adding in the information for the answer hour for next week, which, like Angie stated, is going to be more focused on kind of prep for go live, not necessarily a demo, but we do want to have plenty of question and answer time at that point as well. We would anticipate some more questions might be coming our way next week, and then also for after go live. So please keep an eye on the web pages there, and certainly sign up and register and attend if you are able to.
Melissa,
yeah.
One other thing I just wanted to call out, if you want to go back to your slides really quickly, I think
Sure.
you had a slide that had the help desk and the WCMP email address. So these are both two really good email addresses to have. Something that will make sure that this is communicated a few more times, but our DLI.WCMP email will kind of be going away after go live. So you can certainly continue to send questions that way right now. But I would highly encourage you all just to start utilizing our help desk, because that will definitely be what we're using moving forward. So just something to keep in mind from a logistical standpoint, that DLI.WCMP@state.ms.us, perfectly fine for you all to continue sending questions or concerns there right now. But we will be retiring that account after go live.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's see. I think there was another question that came in.
Yeah, I can read that for you again.
Okay.
Is there a date we need to register in campus by if we have not yet done so?
So I think actually I'm going here to my Work Comp Campus page. That was the very first link that we put in the chat, and I'm going to open this form filing because I think there was some information actually in here about it. So this is why I should not search for things while I'm talking. But I thought it had stated, if not, I will find it out. Oh, here we go. All payers must create their campus accounts and transition their systems to EDI by Thursday, November 5th, 2020.
Yes. So just to call out, campus registration will not be open until the system goes live on 11/2. If you have questions about group management, the process will be slightly different if you are a group administrator, if you have been identified as a group administrator. I am working on getting the solid date for when you all can expect to receive further instructions, those of you who are administrators. But if you are not an administrator, you would just plan to either register on November 2nd, or you would receive an invitation from your group administrator on November 2nd or shortly thereafter to register. And those were those emails that Melissa was just showing you all earlier in Gmail, what your email looks like. So this is exactly what it would look like. The only difference would be that it would have your information instead of Melissa's information.
Yes. And not everybody will actually be named Melissa. All of my personas are.
Right.
Oh.
Right. It will not say Melissa unless your name is Melissa.
There you go. Perfect. Good clarification. So yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone though for coming to this answer hour and for the great questions and discussion that we had. We will certainly still stay on the line for the next couple minutes. So if you do have a question you're typing in, please don't feel too rushed. We'll sit here for a couple minutes and see if anything filters in. For everyone else, feel free to drop off the call and enjoy the rest of your day. And hopefully we will chat again next week. Thanks, everyone.